Hi, my name is Sarah Catherine, and am in the Understanding Cultural Diversity class, and I was doing my presentation on hoarding. When I researched compulsive hoarding, it turns out that Yahoo Answers and images didn't come up, but instead medical websites. And it's true, hoarding is actually a medical diagnosis, and it's more than just a mess. It's a common problem that most people don't even realize is occurring, and it's really, really difficult to treat. Because of recent shows, it has become more blatant about how common the problem is and how it's not just someone accumulating a bunch of junk. Instead, it's an actual severe medical issue that people have to work through as they're trying to clean up not only their homes but their lives as well. What people have been doing is hiring professional organizers to help clean up their hoarding mess. One recent professional organizer in an interview with WebMD was talking about what it's like to go into these people's homes that have been hoarding. And she says, it's a pretty sensory experience, let me put it that way. There's obviously the assault on your eyes of the quantity of the clutter, then there's the appreciation of what a mishmash the clutter is. Sometimes there's more than your average share of odor, dust, mold, or other types of structural damage. And this is true. If you've ever watched the hoarding shows, the houses are absolutely dilapidated. It smells, there's mold, there's dust, because people that are hoarders are totally blind to their surroundings. And this is something that is more of a risk to them than a disgust. Because of the recent popularity of TV shows, including TLC's shows Hoarders, the emergence of the popularity of hoarding has come from that. It turns out that 2 to 5% of Americans are actually considered eligible for being diagnosed with hoarding. To put that in perspective, 1% of Americans have panic disorders and 2% have OCD disorder. So 2 to 5% is actually a really large chunk of our population. And this is really, really surprising to recent studies of how common hoarding actually is. The psychological effects of hoarding are not something that is often talked about. It's not just that you have an overstuffed home full of things that aren't very useful, but it also places a lot of risk on your health, such as the dust and mold that we discussed earlier. Your surrounding neighborhoods are in danger, and it's not just something that you can take a box of trash bags to clean up and act like it didn't happen. There are literal psychological effects that go into hoarders, and I will discuss that in just a minute. I want to talk about the differences between a messy style and hoarding. Psychologists have actually created a line that's the difference between being messy and being a hoarder, and that line is the ability to function. Someone may have a lot of stuff accumulating, but it's not going to affect the ability for them to live their everyday life. Hoarders, on the other hand, have it to the point where they are not able to cook their food in their own kitchen. They're not able to sleep in their own bed. They're not able to find the couch if they wanted to sit down. And those things get in the way of their functional day. So this line is where psychologists draw the line. If there's a threat of food, if there's a threat of safety, then their health is compromised, and that means that they're a hoarder. They're not just messy. I know when I was growing up, I had some friends that, had a messy home. There were stacks of stuff lying everywhere. However, it wasn't that they were hoarders, because if we needed to, we could get food. If we needed to, we could sleep. If we needed to, we could take a shower. But hoarding is something where those things are not always acceptable. Some reasons for why hoarders do what they do and accumulate things instead of getting rid of them are the emotional attachment that comes with them. They have some sentimental value that they can't let go of, that they feel like they will feel loss if they get rid of something. There's also the sense of intrinsic value, so something means something to them, and therefore if they got rid of it, they would be betraying that, or they would feel some depression from that. There's also the assumption of use. That's where hoarders accumulate things such as tacks, string, rubber bands, stuff like that, that they're gonna say to themselves, oh, I might need this someday, I might use this someday. And those things are just a accumulation of things that are really, in the long run, not going to help them out, but that they just can't let go of. We discussed the recent emergence of the hoarding phenomenon, and because of this, experts have gone back to the scientific reasoning behind it. Previously, hoarding was seen as an extension of the obsessive compulsive disorder. However, now that researchers are looking again, they don't necessarily see a correlation between the two. Some more common medical links are depression, anxiety, and attention deficit disorder. And these things are just more commonly linked with people that are diagnosed with hoarding instead of just some OCD. As scientists continue research, they have noticed that the frontal lobe of hoarders actually work different than people that aren't diagnosed with hoarding. The frontal lobe is correlating to weighing options and rational thinking. What this basically means is a normal person would pick something up while they're cleaning and make a judgment of whether this is useful, this is worth saving, etc. The hoarder, on the other hand, would make up reasoning as to keep it and never make up any reasoning as to why to get rid of it. I consider myself a pack rat, and as a pack rat, I like to keep things for sentimental value. However, when things start to add up quickly, I realize that, I need to get rid of some of it. So therefore, I'll go through and I'll, weigh rationally which one is worth more to me sentimentally, etc., etc. Order never gets to that point. They're never to the point where they discuss how they need to actually get rid of something that it's not worth keeping and having that much clutter. In order for hoarders to get help in overcoming their disorder, most people do not seek help on their own. It's more of an intervention type of issue. In the TV shows that I've been watching, it's always the family members that have kind of disowned their family because of their hoarding problem. They're not able to live with them, etc. So therefore they seek help for the people. But when the show's over, the part that we don't see is that it's not always a simple, quick, and permanent fix. It's a lot of work because this is a chronic and severe diagnosis, and it's not something that you can just get over without practicing and working at it. And even though this is a severe disorder, there is help after the cleaning and after the show's over. There is therapy that psychologists can offer, and this is called CBT therapy, and it's cognitive behavioral therapy. And basically, this just works on the hoarder's judgment on whether an item is really worth keeping. Quick decision making on whether to actually keep the item or throw it away, and practicing physically throwing away things and just practicing the process of judgment and cleaning all over again repetitively. When things don't stick permanently and hoarders start slipping back into their old behavior, psychologists have turned to a thing called harm reduction. And basically this is just, as it's stated, reducing the harms that hoarders can encounter, such as health risks, etc. It reduces vermin, it reduces the mold, it removes the dust. It's just focusing on things to actually keep the patient healthy. And then psychologists also set goals so that once they are actually practicing things they can say, work towards your goal, work towards your goal, is this going to be part of your goal, etc. So there's therapy for hoarding, because as most people don't realize, and I'll keep reiterating, it really is a medical diagnosis that we are entertained with and we watch all the time on TV, etc. But it's not something that a lot of people find funny, because it's a real serious issue that tears a lot of people apart. So I just want you to think about that, and thank you for watching my presentation.